Well, hello again, Florida Southern Moccasins, and welcome to week module 5 of esports sponsorship activation. And this week, we're going to be focusing on the rise of the influencer. So let's get started. So what are we going to cover specifically? We're going to be taking a look at the whole dynamic of the esports and social media platforms for influencers. We're going to definitely take a look at how do influencers get compensated, because clearly esports sponsorship activation and compensation are they go hand in hand. Um, what do corporate sponsors look for when we're dealing with individual influencers? Are there, in fact, different tiers of influencers? Well, obviously, that's rhetorical. The answer is yes. And a lot of that's going to require an understanding of the data analytics that are used for streamers and influencers. We have to then, from a corporate standpoint, company standpoint, calculate what's the return on investment from an influencer sponsorship campaign? How long does it last? And a look at some of the third-party companies that help connect brands with influencers. We've touched about that earlier, but it's necessary to go back and renew it. So we'll look at the variety of influencers, influencer rankings, sponsorship content, microtransactions, very important criteria there, analytics, and such. So the one thing I definitely want to reiterate here is that when we talk about esports sponsorship activation, it's not done alone. It has to be part of an integrated marketing campaign. And so I think it's important to take a step back and look at what an integrated marketing campaign is, because it does, in fact, include analog as well as digital. Okay. So we know that consumers are encountering brands and advertisements everywhere. Okay. Now, for a brand to stand out to customers, it needs to create campaigns that live on the platforms customers frequent. Now, with esports, we've already taken a look. Those platforms are primarily Twitch, YouTube, Facebook gaming, as well as the sites such as Discord, Reddit, and such. Okay. So these campaigns, they must share similar features to stand out in customers' minds, because what we want is a repetition. We want continued impact of the brand image, the brand logo, the brand message across a multitude of platforms, analog and digital. Now, when a campaign is fully integrated, customers will recognize the brand regardless of where they see it. Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt by who? Where's the logo? Okay, I do have a logo here. Yeah, by who? Nike, right? You see the swoosh and you're like, well, that's clearly Nike. By the way, I have no idea where I bought this shirt, how I got it. Even my wife said, where did you buy this shirt? I was like, I don't know, I thought you bought it for me, but whatever. So this recognition will help them remember what it had to say, and thus it begins a relationship with them, okay? Now, for you, as the individual that's deciding whether the company is going to activate your sponsorship, again, you need to decide exactly who this campaign will target and how the success will be determined. And again, what have we stressed all throughout this course is that esports sponsorship activation is about a specifically targeted demographic. So in that regard, we've already answered the first question for you. You need to identify where this target audience is most likely to interact with your content and make those channels to focus on the campaign. For example, if you're going to go with a specific game or franchise, is it going to be better for you to advertise in a particular tournament? And since there are so many tournaments, which tournament's going to give you the best opportunity to reach as many of those eyeballs of your targeted customer base as possible? Okay. This means you need to bring together the marketing and sales teams that are going to participate in the campaign so that we all know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And this is beyond this class, but I'm going to assume, for all the negatives around the word assume, that you are familiar with the agile/scrum process for putting together any sort of campaign or timeline, and how in the process, the methodology requires everyone in the team to share what they're doing, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, okay? Now, ultimately, you have to have defined metrics to judge the success of your campaign, and that requires understanding which platforms are the most effective at bringing in those customers. And then when you're done, you're going to use this information to guide future campaigns so you can be even more efficient and more productive. And for the most part, that's going to involve knowing which campaigns have failed. All right, have failed. It's like, you know what? We ran this during this particular tournament, thinking that we were going to get this sort of feedback from the targeted market. We didn't get it. What have we learned from that? So all of this comes back together in the integrated marketing campaign. So you as the business, what's your bigger picture strategy? What is the culture? Not only the culture of the customer, but your own culture. How is the brand perceived? Are they credible in this market? I mean, we only have to take a look at Bud Light and the disaster from the Mulvaney thing to realize there was a confusion of culture there. I mean, what exactly was Bud Light trying to do? What were, and how come nobody could see or consider the ramifications of that particular move? Okay. Now you've got to go to the market. And this one is fascinating. Is this market mature or is it emerging? With esports, I think we would say it's both. Okay, it's both. Now, both means you've got to use your analytics to understand what's the millennial percentage of the esports audience versus the Gen Z percentage of that audience for that particular game in this particular tournament. Okay. Is it slow moving? Is it risk adverse? Well, one of the things about esports is you don't have to worry about that. All right. And what role do analysts and influencers play? Well, that's the focus of this section, right? Now, the audience constantly, what do they believe now? What do you want them to believe? All right. Why should they care? Why should they act? And why don't they care? And why don't they act? And what is basically stopping them from buying? And so the product, what are its strongest features? How is it different? Why is it different? What benefit does it deliver? And what is the perception of it existing now? And to what degree do we want to change that perceptive? Okay. And are there well-known comparable solutions? What has the other guy done? What has the other company done? And what has been the result there? So this all leads us to the whole dynamic of the influencer. And the influencer and social media go hand in hand. So to understand the power of influencer marketing, these 4 points are where you begin, okay? Authenticity. Authenticity is a word that has got tremendous relevancy in today's world. And when I was growing up, authenticity really was never something. It was more about awareness. Soap operas are called soap operas because they were daytime television that was targeted to the stay-at-home mom. In my generation, 99% of moms stayed at home doing the laundry, doing the cooking, doing the cleaning, all of that stuff. They took a break to watch operas, which were basically romantic dramas, okay? And they were all sponsored by soap companies because what did mom do? Mom did the laundry and the cleaning. So they were called soap operas because the opera, by the way, opera is an Italian word that simply means work. All right. An operaio in Italy is someone who does work. And an opera is called an opera because it's a lot of work. You got it? It's a lot of work. So nowadays, we are going to be focusing on authenticity. And this authenticity is specifically for a targeted audience. And then we've got to look at the cost effectiveness, because one of the great things about the influencer initiatives is that they are cost effective. And do they result in increased engagement? So the influencer marketing has emerged as a dominant force in the advertising industry, all due to the rise of social media platforms. They go hand in hand. This is not the same as putting an athlete on the cover of the Wheaties box, all right, which was basically subconscious. Or it's like, oh, you know, Joe DiMaggio, who's Joe DiMaggio, right? Joe DiMaggio eats Wheaties, so I want to be like Joe DiMaggio. I'm going to eat Wheaties. We've gone way beyond that, because by partnering with influencers, brands can tap into their established audience and leverage their influence and credibility to promote products and services. So the power of influencer marketing lies in its ability to connect with consumers on a personal level. And when you connect on a personal level, you make it a highly effective marketing strategy. Now, let's give an example of how social media and influencer campaigns, to a large degree, came about. How many of you remember the Ice Bucket Challenge? Okay. This was a campaign that was started by the ALS Association to raise awareness and funds for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, which is known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Now, when I was growing up, you know, Lou Gehrig, we genuflected. I taught at Columbia University. Lou Gehrig was a student at Columbia, and the field where all the protests occurred for the Free Palestine and all that, that occurred on Lou Gehrig Field, because they used to play baseball there and hit home runs that broke windows at Columbia, okay? Now, the Ice Bucket Challenge involved pouring a bucket of ice water over one's head and then challenging others to do the same or to donate to the cause. Now, many celebrities and influencers participated in the challenge, and it helped to raise millions of dollars for ALS research. How did that get known? It got known through social media. And if anything, it was one of those catalysts that says, wow, you know, a video on a social media site that has some authenticity to it, although we can question the authenticity, because how many people were doing it and actually donated? That's another question. But you can see here the origins of the recognition of the power of the influencer, okay? So now we're going to expand a little bit on what we originally said. There's authenticity and trust, the targeted reach, content creation, social proof, and the social proof is going to be through those impacted by the influencer campaign and to what degree they're going to believe that the message being imparted is true and authentic, and its cost effectiveness. So let's boil this down even more. If you're going to invest in understanding in the influencer marketing, all right, you know that you're hoping to create new opportunities that other channels may not be able to provide. Targeted reach. Number two, you need to explore partnerships with influencers and external platforms and agencies. So the onus is not entirely on you, because again, we have companies that are here to help you do that, okay? You then need to approach the influencer marketing as a long-term opportunity. Yes and no, okay? Professor Don here says it's all going to be about the length of the campaign that you're putting together. Because if it's a seasonal campaign, you're doing it for the season, okay? I'm amazed at how seasons have exploded during my lifetime, because it is now the end of July, and we already have vacant department stores that are now nothing but Halloween costumes. Well, let's see, the end of July, August, September, October, we basically have 3 months to Halloween, but Halloween has now become the second most financially lucrative holiday in the country. Don't ask me what that means, or I'll upset you. Now, fourth is you need to consider how to use influencer marketing across the full funnel. What do we mean? The trust and positive emotional response that influencers deliver has been linked to purchase intent, okay? I mean, that's why whatever Taylor Swift is wearing sells. Whatever another celebrity is wearing sells, okay? So complement performance-based tactics with brand engagement higher up the funnel. What that means is if it's let's say a micro influencer, and we're going to get to that a little bit later, you may target it differently than if you're going to a million plus influencer. And fifth is you need to communicate your key performance indicators to influencers. In other words, these influencers who are individuals, they need to know upfront, clearly, declaratively, demonstratively what you want to get out of this. So you have to align their remuneration to your business outcomes. Frankly, we see this already when it comes to media, just general media like news organizations and advertising on websites. It used to be the case you wanted a full page ad in the New York Times, it was $55,000, what have you. Now it's not just about clicks on the ad that you ran on this website, but it's the degree to which, how long did the customer stay on that site and whether the customer actually purchased something. And that all will decide the level of remuneration, which is why news organizations are going broke, okay? Now, to get back to this, the dissonance between marketer focus on outcomes and influencer focus on authentic content can be resolved. How? By better bringing the two parties together on measurement practices. In other words, one of the great things about digital media is the facts are there, the data is there, and we are able to literally sit there and say, to the influencer, you presented my product or service in this particular way, using this particular verbiage, and what we see is nothing happened as a result of that. So if you want us to continue sponsoring you, then maybe you need to be more direct in what you want the customer to do, okay? Now, let's go back to the platforms. Once again, where are these influencers located? They're located on Twitch, overwhelmingly with esports, but they're also on YouTube and Facebook. So much so that since the content for these sites is user-generated, we have got complete videos that are teaching you how to stream on Twitch, how to stream on YouTube, how to stream on Facebook gaming, and how to restream. And this is all knowledge that is available to everybody. So let's talk about the stream itself. The average stream consists of the main video, which is really the game being played, an additional webcam with a view of the streamer. And while it says it's optional, trust me, it's not optional. You've got to see the gamer, the streamer who is playing the game right then and there. And the Twitch chat to the right of the main video. That Twitch chat is spontaneous user-generated content, which when it comes to esports is very often showing stars or bits, which are actual money that is being donated to the streamer. Each broadcaster has his or her own channel page. Now, this channel page can be customized with information about the streamer and rules for the channel. No profanity, no negativity, what have you. But it also is more than likely linking the individual who is viewing the stream to that streamer's website, where perhaps that streamer is pontificating on a host of other subjects, okay? Now, that information is found below the main video and often contains links to the streamer's social media accounts and sponsors. It links to the sponsors. The typical expert streamer makes between $3,000 and $5,000 per month, but by playing 40 hours per week. So if you're playing 40 hours per week, that's your job. Now, that doesn't mean it's 9 to 5. It might probably mean you start at 9 p.m. and go till 5 a.m. All right. But what you're looking at here is the typical streamer expert makes $3,000 to $5,000 per month by playing 40 hours per week. That's $1,250 a week to play a game that you love and to interact with your fans. However, the more average streamers, they make roughly $250 in ad revenue per 100 subscribers, or $3.50 per 1,000 views. Okay. This is important because you are in charge of the money. All right. And so you need to know what the streamer at that particular tier that the streamer happens to be in, what they can expect to earn. Now, to start earning money on Twitch, you need roughly 500 regular viewers. Now, if we had a lot more time and all that, we could talk about becoming a Twitch partner, a Twitch affiliate, because those are rankings that also determine how much money you're going to earn from Twitch. So what does a streamer site look like? You know, Don's getting ready to stream. Bingo, this is what I'm sitting in front of. Bingo, this is what I'm sitting in front of. And I'm doing it so I can reach these Twitch users, okay? Which, as projected for 2026, is 11% of the population. I don't know about you, but I would like to reach 11% of the population, especially when that 11% of the population is my target audience. Now, Twitch, okay? Twitch offers, as I insinuated before, a variety of options for more traditional advertising on the platform, such as you get video and banner ads that are available in an array of placements throughout the site. What does this do? This allows your brand to pinpoint exactly what users you want for your target audience. All of this will generate data, and this data will be connected to the influencers. You use viewing data to identify current influencers or rising stars. Of course, there are companies that are doing this for you, right? You then want to match the desired brand voice with the personalities of the influencers. Some of these influencers are rather sarcastic. Some of them are rather weird. You have to determine whether your particular product is appropriately weird or appropriately cynical or appropriately hipster, that this particular influencer is the right person, right? Is the right vehicle to promote your product, especially considering is that influencer's audience likely to buy the service or product? Because this is all about building relationships with streamers and their communities, okay? So let's take a look at some of the most watched esports channels, okay? So you can see here that there's a host of channels that are watched, and they're watched with a significant number of hours, okay? So your job with your company is to go through all of this and figure out, well, which of these teams, which of these tournaments, which of these franchises are really attracting the audience that you want to buy your product. And while these are particular esports channels, this next slide is taking a look at the most popular esports tournaments, okay? So you can see here that Worlds in 2023 set a new esports record. Depending upon your company, you may very well say, you know what, that's where I want to be. But you can also see here that you've got a host of other tournaments around the world, geographic locations. You'll notice, we've got, League of Legends Korea. We've got League of Legends Korea Spring. We've got Paris. We've got Southeast Asia. We've got Indonesia. All of these come together. Because you need to be aware of not just the targeted audience, but the culture that this targeted audience exists in. Now, the good news is there are hordes of data that are there to tell you who are the top 41 esports influencers today. And when I say today, and that's because if you were to look up this channel today, it probably would have a different ranking of influencers. It comes and goes because these influencers are regular people. And so some of them get burned out. Some of them are like, I'm taking a break. Some of them are, I'm on vacation or what have you. But here you can see the degree to which we look at the attributes of each. Take a look at Rick Fox, who's really one of the founders of this. 273,000 followers on Twitter, 147,000 followers on Instagram. Now, Instagram is not something we normally identify with esports, but gee, Are his 147,000 followers on Instagram appropriate for our product? You've got to decide that. So let's take a look at the money. Ninja, okay? Highest paid Twitch streamers in 2023. Ninja got paid $5.42 million as a Twitch streamer in 2023. That we're not even including YouTube, Facebook, or what have you. Shroud close behind at 5.33 million, XQC 4.92 million, Summit 1G 4. You can see here the amount of money that they're made. Now, they're making it from who? They're making it from the companies that are sponsoring them on their sites. And the presumption is these companies are sponsoring them because they're getting a significant return on the investment. Now, the one thing you're going to see here, there's a lot of males. We need to expand that. So while there are currently no women in Twitch's top 10 most watched in 2022, some female streamers have attractive, massive viewership nonetheless. So how much does Twitch sponsorship cost? The going rate for a sponsored social media post in 2024 is $200 per post as of February 29th, 2024. Now, do you normally just post once? No, you don't. But this gives you at least a figure. It gives you a number that says, well, okay, if I'm thinking that I want to post on one of these ladies' sites, it may cost me $200 per post. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is word of mouth, right? So here we take a look at Acer, which is an endemic sponsor of esports, right? And what we're seeing is the breadth at which Acer, an endemic sponsor, has reached out to tournaments, has reached out to influencers, has reached out to everyone that it believes is going to be a lead customers to buy their product. And so this, if anything, is an example here of an integrated marketing campaign on digital, an integrated digital marketing campaign as it's hosted by Acer. It's a great slide. Spend time taking a look at it. Now, what are the attributes of an influencer? What is the interactive live streaming feedback loop look like? Okay. First of all, you need to have a show, all right? And a show that asks the audience to interact. Now, you'll see underneath here are some of the salient foundational elements of Joseph Campbell's the hero's journey. So the call to action is, I've got a channel, I'm broadcasting, I want you to react. So the audience hopefully responds via chat to what I am doing, okay? So this is boosting engagement and increasing attention. Then we want reaction. Reaction in the form of what? Well, the show curates and integrates participation into the broadcast through chat. But what is the nature of this chat? The nature of this chat is positivity, is negativity, is suggestions, is commentary, is recommendations. So what happens is the act of co-creation. This becomes reactive entertainment and regenerative listening. And then we have the reward. The audience views their impact on the show. In doing so, it is building community, it is creating a connection, and it is more likely to share. Again, one of the great things about Reddit is it's sharing. All right, it shares, and it's the target audience, Gen Z for the most part, sharing what Gen Z, feels is important to other Gen Zs. Okay. Now, when we talk about the audience views their impact on the show and complements it, how does it do that? It does that through very often microtransactions. Okay. The online microtransaction market is expected to reach $219.4 billion by 2032, a compound annual growth rate of 13.2. Now I've mentioned microtransactions before because for the most part, they apply to in-game purchases. All right, Don's going to, once again say Fortnite, free-to-play game, free-to-play, generated $2 billion in microtransactions. Streamers live very often on microtransactions the same way that game companies do, which comes to the dynamic of content creation, okay? There are now 50 million content creators active, and those content creators are the streamers, okay? They're the streamers. And we can see here that we've got a combination of amateur creators, which is anybody that's taking the time to interact. And you'll see here 30 million on Instagram, okay? 30 million amateur creators on Instagram. 12.5 million amateur ones on YouTube, 2.7 million on Twitch, and then other 2 million. But when we take a look at professional creators, okay, professional creators who are really what you're looking for in terms of influencers, we've got 1 million of them on YouTube, 300,000 of them on Twitch, 500,000 of them on Instagram. This is all the data that you have to keep in mind when you're deciding whose wagon, whose horse to hitch your wagon to. And here, this is a fascinating slide. It's a sample revenue breakdown for top live streamers, okay? Because again, there are different styles of streamers. So if we take a look at top lifestyle streamers, only 5% of their revenue comes from ads. 20% from new sources, 25% from subscriptions, and 50% from donations. Okay, now let's look at game streamers. 12% come from donations, 20% come from ads, 68% come from subscriptions. What are we interested in here? That subscription audience to that particular game streamer, and is the demographic breakdown of that streamer, of that subscription audience, such that we want to buy ads on their site. Got it? Good. Okay. Twitch viewership overall going to continue to rise, although be at 4%. Just chatting viewership rising by 15%. And remember, just chatting is everything that's non-gaming. I want to talk about TV shows. I want to talk about movies. I want to talk about Italian cuisine. I want to talk about fashion, what have you. And so all of a sudden, the lifestyle streamer becomes a lot more important. Now, who's buying this stuff? All right. Okay. So if we take a look, what is the percentage purchasing downloadable content among those viewers of Fortnite? It's a lot. It's big. Okay. And you'll notice that the mediums here, the hardware, 43% of the downloadable content is coming from gaming consoles, 35% from PCs, 3% from smartphone or tablet. That's going to change in the future as the smartphone gets bigger, okay? Now, notice the games: Fortnite, Dota, Hearthstone, Destiny, LOL, Overwatch, COD, Heroes of the Storm, Elder Scrolls, etc., etc. The percentage purchasing downloadable content. Well, if these individuals watching these games, playing these games, are actually using the power of click to buy something, that is something I want to know. Let's focus some more on microtransactions. Microtransactions were popularized primarily in massively multiplayer online role-playing games, okay? Their impact is decided by the aesthetic changes that do not affect the player's power in any way. In other words, it doesn't change a character's appearance, weapon themes, various, except, and they also directly, they may affect directly the gameplay. For example, making it easier for the player with purchase add-ons in the form of additional tasks, locations, weapons, what have you, okay? Now, the availability of content for purchase in video games has become increasingly common, right? This is the adoption of in-game micro spending and purchasable content in free-to-play models. Fortnite, again, is notorious for this, where the average Fortnite gamer spends $82 in the past year on microtransactions and downloadable content. Come on, Don, learn how to speak. 62% of respondents spent cash on expansion packs, making it the most popular piece of content, but the average expense here was only $56. Come on, who are we kidding, right? Again, I'm going to leave this to you to read, so I don't just sit here and read it to you. Now, but this is a fascinating chart. The most popular games: Call of Duty, GTA, Fortnite, Super Smash, Pokemon. They do not necessarily correspond to the most microtransactions. For example, Super Smash Brothers, the 5th most played game, has the least players purchasing downloadable content. And I would say it doesn't take much to think about you're playing a fighting game, which is definitely like superheroes beating up each other. What are you expecting these people to purchase? All right. Except maybe it's the Australian emu for their arms. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What is the advantage of influencer marketing? And we'll just focus on Twitch. Okay. Twitch is home to roughly 2.5 million daily concurrent viewers. Yet, despite this massive audience, many brands haven't moved to Twitch. We've already mentioned before, advertising on Twitch is really minimal, which is not news to Amazon's ears. Brands that embrace the shift now can become early adopters and start nurturing relationship with top streamers before the platform becomes oversaturated. And I think it's safe to say that if we look at YouTube, Google, it's oversaturated with ads. The second advantage of influencer marketing on Twitch is live promotions. In other words, Twitch promotions are never one-dimensionals. On other platforms, promotions generally end once the content is published. But on Twitch, the audience and the streamer are actively engaged in the promotion. Okay. Other reasons: deeper connections. Twitch has more than 15 million daily unique visitors who watch an average of 95 minutes of content every day. They're spending a lot of time on there. But again, they're spending it on there by engaging, which is why Twitch's live chat option allows for the creation of a two-way conversation. And this is a meaningful interaction, creating an environment that resembles, frankly, a real-life friendship more closely than any other social media channel. And with that relationship comes a level of trust that increases an audience's chances of following the product recommendation from streamers. Now, what are the factors that influence your earnings? And I'm not going to go through all of this. You're an adult, you can read, but notice it's the number of streaming hours. Right? How often is that influencer on air? What is the quality of the content that they are showing? What is the level of audience engagement? And this is through analytics, which we're going to get into. What is the follower count? To what degree are they sticking to Twitch's policies? We don't want them violating Twitch's policies, which can lead to suspensions, penalties, and such. To what degree are they nurturing collaboration and networking? All right. Networking is very important because they're connecting with other creators that lead to opportunities for cross-promotion, hosting, or participating in events that increase viewership and potential income. And what are the additional revenue streams? What do we mean by that? Many successful streamers monetize their content through multiple platforms: YouTube, Patreon, merchandise sales, sponsorships, affiliate marketing. So when we take a look at this, the Twitch moderator and the social media enthusiasts, what are the keys there? Okay. First of all, We want love and belonging, right? We want to know that the streamer is attending to the peers and the followers. We want security, ensuring that the status in chat is safe and maintained. We want there to be a physiology dynamic. How so? How so? We want to make sure that they're able to afford basic living needs after spending so much money and time fitting in. And then we want self-actualization. This is very much like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I assume you're already familiar with, right? So ultimately, the priorities of Twitch viewers, and all social media users for that matter, are mostly virtual, yet the consequences they face are all real life. So this is an example of a Twitch stream, okay? Now, by the way, again, I remain fascinated by things here. How Twitch has grown. Remember, we mentioned just chatting. It has grown quite a bit over the last decade and has now become a common hub for all forms of live content, including podcasts, D&D, which is immortal for the most part, arts and crafts, mukbang, and even simple streamer to audience chats. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with mukbang, all right, it translates to eating room. All right, of course, remember a gaming room in Korean is called a PC bang. Bang simply means room, right? But mukbang is live streamed video where a host eats large amounts of food in front of a camera and interacts with the audience. And I can see this is the case because so many of my students who are Gen Z, you take photos of your food. My goodness, are you taking photos of your food? You're taking photos of your food while you're making it, while you're cooking it, while it's being prepared, while it's being placed on the plate, while it's being eaten, and afterwards with a review. But this doesn't surprise me because in my house, we're addicted to Top Chef, okay? So here's an example again of screen, of chat, and what have you. Now, a word that I've mentioned repeatedly is analytics. Twitch and every other site gives you an incredible amount of analytics. In other words, in Italian, we have an expression, niente scuse, no excuses. You have no excuses for not doing the proper work to make sure that your product or service is reaching the proper target audience. You can see here, this is Twitch Tracker. And Twitch Tracker, this is just for Riot Games, the 2020 World Championship. It will tell you viewers watching 2 million plus, how many live streams, how many games being streamed, how many hours watched daily, unique streamers daily, et cetera, et cetera. It is all there. And who was the top live channel? Il Masio, okay? Nice to see an Italian winning something, right? But in addition to Twitch Tracker, you've got Social Blade. Okay, Social Blade is a statistics website that allows you to track your statistics and measure growth across multiple social media platforms, meaning YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and others. This is usually used by the streamer. Okay, so the streamer accesses Social Blade to find out how he or she is doing. Now, ranking. Ranking refers to where a video ranks in search results, as well as the likelihood it will appear as a suggested video. Because in fact, on YouTube, suggested videos, which appear in the right sidebar or at the end of a video, are the #1 traffic source. So folks, to become a marketing expert today, you really have to be a marketing FBI person. You've got to delve into it. You got to figure out the mind of Hannibal Lecter. I mean, you've got to be full bore into what does all this data mean for you and your company and your product. Now, let's take Instagram. We've referred to as being a prime streamer site, especially for amateurs and all that. There are different tiers of influencers on Instagram. And it's everything from the nano Instagram influencer, we're 1,000 to 10,000 up to the mega influencer on Instagram that has 1 million followers. So you've got to ask yourself, I'm a new company. I don't have that much money. Are there pros and cons for working with a micro influencer? Well, the pros are it has a higher engagement rate. I mean, it might be a micro influencer with 10,000 followers, but those 10,000 followers really like whoever that micro influencer is. So you can assume that we've got a higher engagement rate. Since they're a micro influencer, there's going to be a lower cost. And more than likely, niche categories. Okay. I mean, for example, suppose what you're selling is a vegan product. Well, you definitely want to go to a site where there are vegan audiences, right? Now, what's the negative of using a micro influencer? Well, lower reach. All right. In other words, it's not a shotgun. It's very, very targeted. It may also have less brand lift because micro influencers can't achieve the same kind of large scale impact on brand awareness that a macro or a mega influencer can. And clearly, it's going to require more work on your part, and there will be risk involved. But just from what we've discussed so far, you can see that the influencer dynamic, which is growing and which isn't going away, and which is so important, is in fact going to require you to do a lot more research, a lot more investigation, and a lot more targeting. But that's the excitement of marketing. Okay, so I'll see you next week next module when we're going to talk about esports sponsorship activation, specifically with tournaments, and then we'll close with government and global engagement in esports sponsorship. Okay, gang.